Okay, Dave, how's it going, mate? James Parker, thanks for sending me your swinging. Just pulled it up on the V1 system. And yeah, I think you got a great idea. You can tell you're a player for low handicap. Nice balance, even though we've got a little issue with this left foot staying planted on the ground. But I pulled up a few things and identified a few things with what's going on. So just with regards to a quick explanation, setup's not bad. I think you could do with having your toes pointing out a little bit more. Right, and I'll explain that a little bit further. Basically, I don't see your right leg straightening enough in the backswing. I don't think the space here next to your right pocket, I don't think you have enough space between your right pocket and that yellow line by the time you get up to the top of your swing. Alright? And just by turning your right foot out a little bit, that will help you straighten your knee just a little bit. Don't want to lock it. But what that's also going to do is it's going to help your right hip move back behind you this way. Alright? I don't see that. So that's just a little bit about the lower body. With regards to the swing plane, setup's pretty good. I don't think there's an issue with regards to setup. I think you have a tendency to reach with your arms a little bit, just by the driver swing that you sent me in. Your arms are reaching a little bit too far, so all this space here underneath, you just got too much space here underneath between the handle and your legs, right? But let's pull a model up, and we'll pull your driver swing up, right? And just with regards to a slow-mo explanation of what's going on. So club head's very low, isn't it, in the takeaway? So generally what you find with people when they have a club head that's too low is it ends up being across the line at the top. It's just a little bit too underneath the plane coming into the ball, right? You end up hitting it a bit too much off the heel, and what you try and do is you try and save it by flipping the club face over, right? So I think the root cause of a lot of your stuff, right, and obviously if there's so much club face rotation through the ball there, right, so much releasing with that right hand, then obviously your direction or your accuracy is going to be one of the main issues, right? So we want to kind of minimize that club face rotation, right? There's going to be club face rotation, there's going to be release, of course there is, but I want you to focus on it more with your left hand, your lead hand, rather than having to throw your right hand at it there. All right, and you're having to do that because the club's attacking the ball so far from the inside. Okay, so how do we stop attacking it too much on the inside? Well, first things first, you can see Hunter Mahan on the left. Let's get your arms a little bit closer to your body, right? Even with the drive, and then that way, what we can do is we can focus a little bit more and just draw a line under the club, and you can do this when you get yourself on the V1, when you record yourself at the range. What I want you to practice is that I want this club head to be coming up higher a lot earlier. Right, so you can see how low the club head is in the takeaway, and that really is the root cause of why it's not on plane at the top and why it's not on plane coming down. You can see how the club head's underneath the plane here, underneath that plane line. So therefore you're attacking it too far on the inside, you just got to whip it over with that right hand, right? So let's get you set up in a way where your arms are a bit closer, and then we want to try and get this club head higher. Now, how you move your body is obviously going to play play its part with how the club's directed around your body, right? Obviously your hands as well. But just for starters, let's work on this. You see, if I stop you there, two big things I want you to really work on, right? Your left shoulder is too high and the club head is too low. Okay? So when you pull a pro up and you pull someone like Hunter Mahan up, who's got a great action, what you tend to find is the club head's a lot higher. So if anything, the club head's still outside of their hands, not whipped inside their hands, right? But also to do that, their left shoulder's moving downward. Okay. So obviously when you move away and your left shoulder turns high, which is what you're doing, there's going to be that tendency to flip the club inside, right? So if we're going to get this club a little bit higher and get it on plane, we've got to work our body properly to start with, right? So I want your left shoulder to be turning down more in the takeaway so that you can get the club head a lot higher, right? And when you stop yourself, when you get the V1 app open at the range and you video yourself, I want you to stop yourself in this position, and I want it to look very similar to what Hunter Mahan's doing out here on the left side. Left shoulder's moving down more, club head is moving higher more. Okay? So obviously how you move your body is going to contribute to you moving your left shoulder down, right? So if we pull up your side action, we pull Justin Rose up here, what I want you to notice is the space that increases between his right pocket and that yellow line. So you see how the space has actually increased, whereas what I see with your move is that space hasn't increased. If anything, to start with, there's actually a little bump into the yellow line with your right hip, with your right pocket. Okay. So at the start, I mean, I think you've got your toes pointed out enough. I don't think that's the problem. But I definitely want you to feel as though your right leg's straightening a little bit more. Right? You look at the position of your right leg here, and you look at the position of his right leg. You can see how it's straightened up just a fraction. His right knee's kind of come back a little bit. Right knee straightened as his left knee is bent, right? But this space here in between his right pocket and that line has actually increased, all right? So if you can understand that with regard to the hip turn, then you'll be able to get your left shoulder a little bit lower in the takeaway, all right? And once you start paying attention to all these things, then it'll all start to fit together. Don't forget, when you go and play golf, all of this has to just fit together, right? You can't go out thinking about, oh, I'll just focus on my left foot, or I'll just focus on my hands, or I'll just focus on this part. You've got to get it all working correct and all feeling okay on the range before you're ever going to go and shoot some decent numbers, because when you get out onto the golf course, you have to kind of try and put it on autopilot, right? This machine that we're building, this mechanical machine, just needs to be put on autopilot, right? So understanding the function is important first. I want your right leg to be straightening a little bit, so that the space in between your right pocket and this line actually increases. All right, but as I say, with regards to a model, I want you to just really kind of pull up as much as you can on Hunter Mahan. It'd be a great model for you. And then this first bit is what I want you to focus on. Alright? Club head is way too low and your left shoulder's too high. So I want your left shoulder coming down lower whilst the club head is getting higher. Alright? Now, obviously how you put your hands on the club is going to be part of it, right? So make sure you're a little bit more in the, just looks maybe as though you haven't quite got your trigger finger down the side of the club as much as you should, right? The first pad of your trigger finger here, right, should just be on the side of the grip, whereas yours looks as though it's kind of tucked underneath the grip a little bit more, right, if that makes sense. If you don't understand that, then just send me a message, we can talk about that a little bit more. But that trigger finger is important. Alright, bud, but 3 good big pieces of information for you there. I want your left shoulder moving down more in the takeaway, right? I want this club head to be getting higher earlier, and I also want your right hip to be moving back away from this line. Okay, great example of that would be a guy named Troy Matterson, right? So you can see how he's a lot more kind of stacked up on his left leg compared to what you are, right? He's got a little bit more weight in this leg at the start, which I think is going to help him. So let's put a little bit more weight in this leg. But when you look at his move and you look at just how much he moves his right hip away from that line, I mean, that is a totally different action to what you're doing. You get it? And also, right, a lot more hip turn. A lot more hip turn means a lot more turn with the upper body. A lot more turn with the body means potentially more power. You see what I'm saying? So these are the kind of angles I want you to try and emulate. Alright, bud, good stuff. Lots of information for you. Please put lots of reps in, just going from here to here. Okay, you're going to spend most of your time on the range not hitting many balls, right? Just practicing that, just getting it right and building these, ingraining these new patterns into your movement. And then obviously through repetition, it's going to start to feel easier, all right? But just getting this right leg straightening and going that way more is really going to help you as well. Right, bud, good stuff. A few thousand reps, give it a few weeks, and then send me another video. Cheers, Dave.